The United States Grand Prix was an absolute roller coaster of a race as Max Verstappen came back from a pit stop disaster to claim the Constructors' Championship for his team, and while Lewis Hamilton missed out on that elusive first win of the season, he still managed to bag an impressive P2 finish. In today's video, we're going to talk about the thrilling race in Austin and an all-time joint record, so let's dive straight into it. First off, an emotional weekend for Red Bull. Tributes were out in full force at the Circuit of the Americas as Red Bull announced the death of its founder, Dietrich Mateschitz, shortly before the quali session. And to honor him, Verstappen vowed that he'd give everything to get the race win. Of course, being the co-founder of the whole energy drinks company rather than the racing team, you barely saw the 78-year-old in the paddock. But he was the reason the team existed in the first place, so it was understandable when most Red Bull Academy graduates like Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo were holding back tears during the pre-race tribute. Large signs saying, "Donkey Didi," were posted on video screens, and honestly, it was a very emotional time. That said, the energy drink outfit didn't quite get off to the start they'd hoped for, as Carlos Sainz claimed pole position ahead of a penalty-ridden Leclerc. Still, there was plenty to fight for in the race, especially with Verstappen's automatic promotion to the front row. Up next, Verstappen's blistering start. The 5 red lights have proven to be very tricky for Red Bull over the past few years. This season has been a whole other story. Not only are they usually quicker off the line, but it's almost impossible to catch them once they're ahead. So it wasn't a surprise when Verstappen jumped into the lead before turn 1. Now, to be fair, Sainz had a pretty bad start, and to make matters even worse, he also looked flustered by the Dutchman's pace. Oh, and we're not even going to open the can of worms that was the massive side shunt front George Russell, which took him out of the race. The point is that the reigning champ was ahead of everyone else before the race even got going properly, and considering how fast he's been over the past couple of months, it almost seemed like nothing could stop him from bagging another race win. Now for the crash that reignited the race. The United States Grand Prix was a bit of a mixed bag for most teams. On one hand, almost everyone was in contention for points finish. At the same time though, it almost felt like Max Verstappen was going to run away with the win as Hamilton struggled to keep up with him. But then Lance Stroll crashed into his 2023 teammate Fernando Alonso, resulting in a full-fledged safety car. Now obviously this bunched up the entire grid together. Even more importantly, however, it gave Charles Leclerc a free pit stop, pushing above the order to a lofty P3. Now admittedly, the restart didn't quite go the Silver Arrow's way as the reigning champ still stayed ahead. That said, he was still under reeling distance as Hamilton whipped out his classic hammer time drive to stay in contention for the race. Oh, and he didn't have to wait long to pounce on a big chance either. Coming up, Red Bull's botched pit stop. It's been a frustrating season for Hamilton as he's yet to win a race in the W13. On top of that, he's also edging closer to losing the record of winning a Grand Prix in every single Formula 1 season he's taken a part in. So while it may not seem like a big deal, he's probably desperate to hop onto the top step of the podium at least once before the end of the season. And guess what? The US Grand Prix was perhaps his best chance of doing so. After Hamilton made a pit stop and went on hammer time to get the undercut, Red Bull responded by calling the 25-year-old in for a fresh set of tires as well. Now, the energy drink outfit's been the best team on the grid by far in terms of making quick stops. So when one of the wheel guns failed during the Dutchman's tire change, a glimmer of hope shone through the clouds straight into the Mercedes garage. Oh, and it wasn't just any botched stop. The two-time world champion was stationary for almost 11 seconds, and in Formula 1 time, that's an eternity. In fact, it took so long for the team to send Verstappen out again that even Charles Leclerc caught up from way back down the track and claimed P2 behind Hamilton. Besides, with less than 20 laps to go in the race, it really looked like the Brit was going to make history. Following up, Verstappen's unrelenting pace, the Flying Dutchman seemed visibly frustrated as he came out of the pits to find himself staring down Leclerc's gearbox. Like, he didn't hold back on team radio either, with some pretty strong language against the team, but when his engineer told him that he's still got the pace to retake the lead, it was game over. The 25-year-old put the pedal to the metal and raced like his life depended on it. It only took him a couple of attempts to breeze past the Monegasque's Ferrari, and from that point, he almost looked like a torpedo headed straight for Hamilton's top spot. Not only did he cut down his 6-second deficit with 7 laps to spare, but he actually established a pretty substantial lead by the end of the race. Hamilton, on the other hand, did the best he could by pushing Verstappen to the edge of the track limits. Nothing ended up working for the Brit though, as the Red Bull just proved proved way too fast for everyone else once again, and all he could do was bring his W13 home in a disappointing yet impressive second place, with Leclerc filling up the final podium position, not to mention the Dutchman's post-race delight. Now, while the Silver Arrows weren't too pleased by the end result, Red Bull's camp couldn't have been happier. Not only did they win their first Constructors' Championship in almost a decade, but Verstappen also matched Schumacher and Vettel's record of 13 race wins in a season. Also, with 3 more Grand Prix left on the calendar, the odds are in his favor to get that 14th win. Speaking after the race, the Dutchman said that he had to push to the absolute limit to recover from that pit stop. What's more, he also dedicated this win to the team's founder, Mateschitz. The team principal, Christian Horner, echoed his feelings as well by saying that it was a very emotional and big moment for everyone at Red Bull. Hamilton, on the other hand, looked visibly frustrated, but at the same time, he conceded Verstappen was just way too quick for him and that he couldn't have done anything to protect the lead. Further down the order, Sebastian Vettel also had an incredible race as he finished P8 in his Aston Martin, while Fernando Alonso was robbed of his 7th place after being penalized for driving with a broken mirror. Other than that, it was yet another frustrating afternoon for Daniel Ricciardo, who finished P16, a whole 10 places behind his teammate Lando Norris. Moving on to Hamilton and Verstappen's joint record. The United States Grand Prix, despite its pretty normal result, was full of era-defining moments. For instance, it finally spelled the end of Mercedes' 8-year domination in the Constructors' Championship. On top of that, we saw what a force of nature the reigning champ can be when he's firing on all cylinders, but one record that slipped under the radar for most people is perhaps the most fascinating pick of the bunch. After their P1 and P2 finishes, respectively, Max Verstappen and Hamilton Lewis became the driving pair with the most 1-2 finishes in the history of Formula One. The previous record holders with 31 1-2 finishes were, of course, Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, who enjoyed a pretty long spell of dominance during those early Mercedes years. And if you look further down, you'll get the Brits' incredible rivalry with Sebastian Vettel. So the 7-time champions definitely had some great rivalries over the years. Is Verstappen the fiercest competitor he's faced in his career though? Well, the stats definitely seem to back just that. Also, just in case you're wondering, yes, Schumacher and Barrichello are in P4 with 25 1-2s, with the Prost-Senna fight following closely behind. Finally, Hamilton vows to come back stronger. Now, even though it seems like Mercedes' fighting days are over, the British ace has refused to accept that future, and instead, he's already gearing up to come back stronger for next season. Speaking to the press after the race, he said that while this year's definitely a lost cause, the team has done plenty of work to improve the W13 successor. In fact, according to him and team principal Toto Wolff, they've got a very strong foundation heading into next year, and you can expect a return to form for the Silver Arrows. Whether or not those promises come to any fruition, however, remains to be seen. But my friends, that's going to be a wrap for this video. Do you think that Hamilton and Verstappen have the best rivalry in the history of the sport? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.